You sound really good.
Yeah, I got a mic. We got the same mics. Yours
Yeah.
is better positioned
Yeah.
because
What? Um, Lean forward and talk into it for a second.
hello, people.
Oh, dude, you sound so much better when you lean. Like it is night and day.
Yeah, I'm not a potato anymore. I'm probably still somewhat potatoy because I'm not all the way up here talking, but
Yeah. I can't wait until you take that leap and you actually start talking into it like I talk into mine.
baby steps. We'll get there.
The audience will enjoy it.
All right.
Um, all right. Well, guys, welcome back to what is this episode? Oh, geez, 10, episode 10 of the Ever Bros podcast.
Wow. Big.
Yeah, this is a milestone for us, and we've been very consistent on releasing these. But
Yep.
number 10 is it's actually a new concept to us that Cody, you instilled on me, and it's that not all clients are a good fit. We've gone through our fair share of clients that had a lot of money, but they just weren't. Sorry, Faye's in my background. She's killing me.
She's living her best life.
All right, let's start that part over here. All right. We've gone through a fair share of clients of ours that were very big. They had a lot of money to spend, and they were willing to spend it with us. And we've gone through some prospects who didn't have a lot of money, and initially we tried to sell them and get them to invest in us. But ultimately, it turned out that a lot of these potential clients and existing clients weren't actually in our best interest to take them on. In fact, they hindered our business more than they helped them, even though they were giving us money. But there is a length of time that I talk and don't know what I'm about to say.
Some people aren't the best fit.
Yeah,
But
this is gonna be a choppy episode. We just got to get our groove going. But I think
okay. Well, you say the topic again. The topic is
the topic is not all clients are a good fit. So we had so to put it in a little bit of perspective, our last couple episodes, we've had getting clients to understand your value and essentially how to land your first sales. And in those episodes, we do kind of talk about, hey, we kind of allude to what we're talking about today, which is how not all clients are a good fit, and you should position yourselves to specific client to a specific client base. And we recently had to kind of redo or rethink how we attract clients and how I pitch our services. But that all came from essentially February 2021.
yeah, when everything went terrible. Is that what when we blew up and then found a lot of people who weren't great fits. Yeah.
In the pursuit of more monthly recurring revenue without even thinking about the side effects of it.
Yeah. And again, like I think we go back to that a decent amount, and it's one of those things that we can, like, you can argue it both ways, but I don't, because that was also when I left my day job. And it was hell, and parts of this spring were hell again too, and that's partly just the springs for us. But like the faster you move fast and break things, and then you learn things faster too, right? I mean, if you aren't experiencing some of those things, then you aren't having the opportunity to learn. So I can't say I regret it, even if it did totally suck. So I think sometimes you learn from the bad things, probably learn more from the bad things, right? And that's when we realized that some just weren't great fits in multiple ways, right?
Yeah, I've got a few of those ways written down. So
Ooh, good.
yeah,
Good.
I think the first one, the first way is if clients don't have the right expectations of your services, and obviously this can be addressed in the actual sales process. But I know there's a lot of sales guys out there. There's a lot of SEO guys or agencies and coaches out there that are just looking for sales, whatever sales they can get, and they broaden their services so they can close more clients. But if you're not if you're not an expert in the services that you're pitching or that you're proposing, it's not going to be a good relationship, and it's going to affect you in the long term. So what's important is really setting the right expectations of what you do offer and who you offer it to. Because if someone comes to us and the first thing and the only thing they want is Facebook ads, we don't offer that. We don't offer that because we have no control over the website. If that's all they get, we have no control over landing pages. We have no control over any of the lower funnel the targeting methods. And if their expectation is also coming to us and wanting weekly reports or weekly changes, or they want to kind of dictate how we do ads, then it's not going to be a good fit, because we are a very hands-off agency, which means we keep your hands off of most of the stuff so we can handle it and you can handle your own business. And we only have a limited amount of time to dedicate to your account. If you listen to our previous episode on pricing your services, we have a dedicated amount of labor hours to your time. To your account. We can't spend it on the phone with you every single week. And if that's an expectation that they have, you're only going to be bleeding money and bleeding labor hours just handling this client, and you're not going to be able to focus on your other clients who are actually a good fit for you, who let you do what you do. And that's we ran into that a lot in February 2021, because we were signing people onto our next tier package, that Rainmaker, which we talked about previously. And it wasn't super successful because it was a higher tier SEO package that wasn't fully fleshed out. So I think people didn't have the right expectations because we didn't really set an expectation or know what we were getting into with that. And when we revamped our services, was the beginning of this year or end of last year, we really made the expectations clear with everything we offered. And we haven't had a single problem since, have we?
No, not like that.
Yeah, not in that regard. The other one kind of goes in line with it though too. It's that clients who are too demanding aren't going to be a good fit. What we found is we figured that we actually thought that clients that paid a little bit or that didn't have a high budget were the most demanding, and that clients with more money thought that it was just another few $100s here and there, like it was nothing to them. But that's what we thought. But when we ran into this issue in last year, it actually kind of seemed the other way around. It actually seemed like the clients that were kind of like the small to medium sized trusted us to do our thing. And then the bigger clients tried to strong arm us and muscle us into doing more work than what we wanted to, or that we needed to. And
it's almost like there's 4 tiers. Like that's how I describe it, is you have the 1K threshold. So when people are under 1K, they're not as emotionally attached to the money. They just don't take it as personally. Once you go, and I should say too, we still work with a good number of owner operators. We've gotten a lot more into marketing managers where their business has a structure, and then we don't work directly with the owners, but we still have a good number of that. And when you break the 1K threshold, people become a lot more conscious and sensitive to that money until you hit like tier 3. And that's when they're doing plenty well enough that it's no longer an emotional attachment. It's not as personal again. It's, is this a good financial decision? And then like, tier 4 is it just goes up from there. You can have one of two things happen there. It's people become super micromanagey and they want to eat up all your time and they feel entitled to a ton more, partly reasonably so because of how much money they're spending. But again, depending on your positioning, like ours is that as you scale, and we do have a focus, especially right now, on ad spend, that depending on how you're scaling it up, it's not taking us a ton more time. And we aren't charging an insane amount more either, too, because we know that it doesn't take that much more time. So the value is in what you're buying in ads and what you get from that performance. So I think sometimes clients won't have that click in their brain to realize that, and it is because we charge for ad spend and then we pay for it ourselves too. So they pay us the money. That's another thing that some people will do is they'll split it out. Well, they'll say, you pay for your ad spend directly, you pay me to manage it. And then that's a little bit easier, I think, mentally for them to grasp that what they're paying you is just purely a management fee, or people who do SEO services too, because that's a similar type of deal.
Well, it's safer from an agency perspective too. If your client pays for the ad spend directly, this could be another topic, or we can just cover it here. But there's a couple of ways to, if you're doing ad spend, if that's part of your business plan or your business model, let's say you're doing social media ad spend or you're doing Google ad spend, you can have it to where you're the one who handles the ad spend and then you pre-bill them. It's just safer that way. Would you pre-bill them $500 for ad spend? You spend the ad spend, it goes onto your credit card, then you pay it off with the $500 that they gave you. That's what Cody and I do. Yep. The other option is what a lot of agencies do is they handle the ad spend ahead and then they post bill their client, which is risky because your client has the opportunity to not pay you and then you're out on that ad spend.
Yeah, don't do that, really.
Yeah.
I think of very few instances where that's a good idea. Don't put yourself at that risk.
Yeah. The third one is that you just have you do what Cody said, you split it out to where you do the management fee and then you have them pay for the ad spend. The downside to that is you miss out on a lot of partner reward systems or partner rewards for it. So like Google Ads, for instance, we have our manager account and then we have all of our client accounts under that and we control billing at the manager level. That all goes on to our credit card, which we're switching to invoice billing here soon. And we pay for that. Therefore, we get, Google says, oh, Evergrow Marketing is the company that's spending, $20K a month in Google Ads.
Although you might still potentially get credit. I can't remember. You might still get credit if it's linked, but the bigger thing is that we actually just get cash back on the CC itself too. Like that's the big one.
Well, 2% cash back on 20,000 a month is like $400 a month just in cash back. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. So,
So one of those things that you're finding with that then is all that the client sees is that bill, that very large bill that goes to you, and then they don't do the math to think, I mean, even if it's line itemed, that this is what I'm paying them in labor and this is what is just costs, because ad spend itself is costs, and they might feel more entitled when they don't really do the thinking about it and realizing what that means. So when that happens, you can end up working a lot more than either you plan for or more than is really worth keeping around.
Yeah. We've had clients that were like, I'm paying you guys $3,500 a month. And it's like, no, you're paying us $1,000 a month. You're paying Google $2,500 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so yeah, we do run into the issue, and that is sometimes a problem, but it's one that gets squashed pretty easily. And especially if you're really transparent about all of your costs and your processes, then when we've had a client that just like, they'll just grill us out of nowhere. They won't communicate with us. And then like 3 months later, they start grilling us about all this stuff. And then I'll just shoot them back an email that just like states literally everything. And I won't hear from them. And then next month when I hear from them, everything's all peachy.
Yep.
And I think the more you stay transparent, the easier it is to manage some clients that might be a little bit more difficult, but still might be a pretty good fit. Cody, I remember you're the first person to say we should fire this client.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Well, it's okay. And the reason for that too is because when I left my day job, I told two guys that I still call them mentors. Like I don't talk to them regularly, but they were both my bosses at one point. And when we hit a rough spot and it's like, we don't really know exactly, or we just want a little bit of guidance on someone who's done it before, I'll ask them. And both of them told me before I made the jump that if you have a bad feeling or if you're second guessing, the answer is always no. It is never worth the money. No matter what you try to convince yourself of and think, that in the end, when it goes bad, or if you just don't feel good about the deal, it's not worth. None of it's ever worth the money in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. So the whole purpose of this episode is to tell you that you can take on clients that will actually hurt your bottom line, usually in terms of labor hours. So they're just sucking the life out of you. And it sounds very subjective because it kind of is. But if you can look at it from a business standpoint, if you can quantify in a monetary sense how many labor hours you're spending on a client, then you can quickly see which clients are becoming the problem. Because if this is just you or just you and a business partner, start getting a team on board and realize that your team is spending so many hours on one particular client, they can't add more clients to their load. And that's a problem. That client is robbing you of money. And kind of with that, I mean, we had the third one. So we had two types of clients that aren't good fits. We had clients that don't have the right expectations and clients that are too demanding. Sometimes they're the same client. The third one I had was clients that don't have the right budget. So there's a lot of times where some prospects will come to us with an idea in mind that, hey, I need to grow my business and I need marketing to do that, specifically search engine marketing. And what I've come to see a lot of them that don't make under a certain amount or don't make above a certain amount is they're just not going to be a good fit, because every single month it's going to be me having to justify what they're doing with us. And they also have to realize that sometimes it takes time, and it depends on what market you're in. We can drive leads to the site immediately, but it's not going to be as fruitful as another market might be, especially if they're in kind of a lower quality area, which is another point too. Some clients, if you're doing certain industry, some clients in certain areas or certain fields of the industry might not be a good fit because it's just they're not in the right position to do it. They're not in the right geography. And at the end of the day, it's only going to hurt your image and the amount of time you spend on those clients. But going back to not having the right budget, one of the first questions I ask prospects when I get on the phone with them is, what are you doing in revenue? This is kind of a taboo question to ask, especially if you talk to kind of, the older traditionalist, boomer type business owners.
That's none of your business.
Yeah, especially if they're a private company. But like, I get to the point like, hey, if they don't tell me this, then they're not going to be a very good partner anyways. So I say it with confidence. I just say, what are you doing in revenue? just like that. I don't try to beat around the bush. Just say it. Just ask it. And if you say it with confidence, then they're more likely to give it to you. Where if you kind of beat around the bush a little bit, it'll be a little bit more apprehensive. And they'll just kind of ask like, why are you asking me this? But if you just come out and say it, they're like, oh, this is a question that I'm supposed to be asked in this little discovery call. Because as soon as they say, oh, I make less than 150,000, as soon as they say under that, I kind of lead off the pitch with, okay, well, we have a couple options. You can just have a website build with hosting. That'll get you off your feet, or that'll get you on your feet and ready. And then we can talk if you want to go to a monthly marketing package, or you can go into monthly marketing, and these are what you can kind of expect. If someone is under 50,000, for instance, like they just started their business this year, which we do get a couple of, they could be in a unique position too. They could have just started this business, but have started other businesses, and they could have capital for other businesses. And that could be a good client fit. But if they're like, yeah, I just left my full-time job and started this, and I'm kind of bootstrapping, I usually turn them down and I say, hey, we're probably not going to be a good fit. I think what you need to do right now is you need to focus on getting to a better revenue point before you bring on a marketing company, because we're just going to bleed you dry. We're not going to bleed you dry in terms of, you're not going to make an ROI, but your cash flow is going to be really limited, and I don't want to chase you down for the monthly bill.
Yep. I think one of the surprising things was my initial thoughts when we got started were that we would get a lot more guys in their 50s, even 60s, that are on the edge of the digital change, who know that these things are happening, these things are changing, and they need to adopt to stay relevant. And we have some of that, but what really surprised me was the number of guys that were our age who don't need convincing, they don't need persuading. They know that this is massively important to the success of their business, that they have to do it, and that it's not worth their time to do it themselves, and that they're better off paying somebody else. That's a very different person than the guy who doesn't really fully value and appreciate digital, and just knows that it has to be something that's done in the business because that's where things are going. And usually too, those guys are harder to upsell because they're just going to fight you. Like they think that you're like, it's almost like they don't see that it can be mutually beneficial. They think that you're just out to get their money. But when, really most of the time when you say, hey, here's how this is mutually beneficial. If you put in more money, you will get this much more performance. And yes, it does benefit us, but we're recommending it because it benefits you. But those guys fight it. And the younger guys are just like, nope, the math it checks out, makes sense to me. I don't need persuading. I don't need convincing. And that was a shocker to me.
Yeah, that's another really good point, is that the guys that don't truly understand or appreciate digital or whatever insert service that you're offering, and I always say guys, a good chunk of our clients are women. We have specific examples in our head of clients that have done this, and usually it's men that are difficult to deal with. We love our female clients.
Yeah. Keep in mind, guys, we work. Just think about it. How many women are going out and starting lawn care or landscaping companies, right?
That's fair. Wait,
we do work with women, and they're in those businesses, but they're not usually the ones who have went out and started it, and not because they can't, but that's just not what we found.
Yeah. And they're the forward thinkers too. They're the ones that are like, no, we know digital works. Mm-hmm. Our husband doesn't.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
Our husband, that sounds like sister wives. Our husbands, But yeah, that's what you were saying too. Is the guys? I will use that term. That don't understand the effectiveness of digital or don't truly appreciate it. They are difficult to upsell, like Cody said, and upselling an existing client is phenomenally easier than onboarding and keeping and retaining a new one. And there's every study in the world out there will show you that is like 70% cheaper to maintain an existing client than hire a new one or onboard a new one. And if you have services that just kind of go up to the next level, let's say we have ads that will essentially double our management fee, so double our gross profit with a client. That's essentially bringing on another client, but we don't have the workload of bringing on another client, but our margin increased as if we did. And one way Cody and I, well, mostly me, have been obsessed with our growth, and we're trying to make the Inc. 5000 list. And I am looking at the numbers and saying, okay, this is how much we have to close every month until the end of the year to be at this goal, so we can be at this goal next year. And then we look at how do we do that? Okay, well, we can onboard this many new clients, or we can upsell this many existing clients, or do a mix of that. And you start to realize what's easier because you do have some clients who really do trust you. And if you have a service that you can upsell, you can go to them and say, hey, I have this really great service. I think you guys are in the market to launch it or test it, or however you want to pitch it. And you can get an upsold. We did that with local service ads with Google when we finally figured out that whole fiasco. Mm-hmm. And we reached out to like 6 clients, and I think 4 of them signed up for it. And it was just like, wow, our margin increased that much just by having to send an email. So, keep that in mind when onboarding a client. Like, is this client going to be fruitful to the relationship? Are they going to be easy to upsell because they trust you and they're happy? Or are they not familiar with what you're selling, and it's essentially, this is just a pay the bills account, which is what I call those accounts that really don't add value other than, making sure that your employees have work to do.
Yeah. Something that is that's a pretty safe bet when it comes to knowing, or really just just being pretty sure that a client is a good fit, is if they're a referral from an existing client, because they most likely have that talk already about what they can expect from you. So if an existing client refers a friend who then does the work to reach out to you too, as if they were inquiring, not where you have to do the work back, if that makes sense. But they usually have a pretty good understanding of what to expect, because if it got to that point where they were actually referred and wanting to contact you and discuss, then that conversation has happened. So we don't have a ton of referrals. I think we talked about that before, but the ones that we have gotten, I think it turned out pretty good. Jake, do you agree? Do you disagree? You can say I'm wrong.
Yeah, we don't have a single, we haven't offboarded a single referral client, or they're still on. But I think it's funny because we have this one client that was a referral to a client that we fired, or a referral of a client that we fired. And I was like, well, we're probably going to lose them too. Like shortly after it happened, and a year later, like they're still here and happier than ever. And in fact, I think in episode 2 or 3 or something like that, we mentioned how we actually just got an email from him about him breaking down his profit and how he did it for the year in terms of leads and where they came from, and really complimented us without complimenting us. It was kind of weird. It was like a very objective compliment, and like I don't know whether to say thank you or this checks out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that does lead into the next really good point, which is be okay with firing clients. This is a very weird subject because not a lot of businesses do it because they're afraid. And the I hear this phrase that I laugh at a lot, and it's fire better than you can hire. And I was like, what a terrible phrase. That is so awful. If you hired better than you fired, you wouldn't have to fire. And but there is a little bit of truth to it. So you do have to be okay with firing clients that are just dead weight or causing your company to bleed in resources. So we've only done this once. We've talked about it like 6 times though. And it was with a client that we had. This was I think it was actually in May of 2021. They were with us for a few months, and
about a year ago now.
Yeah, and it was every time we had them on the phone, they were very nice and polite and great. But then we would just get these like really passive aggressive emails about delays in work and promises that weren't met. And to his point, yeah, he did have a few points, and we owned up to it, and we were like, yeah, we're extremely slammed, and we're apologizing. I think we even gave him discounts on things too, because we're just like, hey, this is out of scope of us, and we gave you timelines of when this can happen, and we didn't meet. And it was one of those other clients that were too demanding, and they didn't have the right expectations, and wanted things that were out of scope. And we learned a lot just from this one client. But
yeah, I think the like, to sum it up, it reminds me of that clip from The Big Lebowski, where he's like, "No, you're not wrong. You're just an asshole." Like, he had good points, but we were transparent about it, and yeah, there's okay, little tangent. Something that bothers me that companies talk about when they discuss culture, and everybody loves culture. They build up culture to be so much, and they're like, our culture is so important. I think culture develops. I think you don't get to be a tyrant and decide how your culture will create itself, but you do get to enforce the norms. So something that Mark Reifenrath, when I was at Spinning Tech, would say was that in the first 6 months, anybody who's new is an attack on the culture because they haven't yet developed and understood the owner's philosophies on how they do business, what is acceptable, what is okay. Simple things like yelling, or swearing in malicious ways, or lying. Like, in some environments, that's normal. That's very weird. A lot of that stuff I think is very strange. So when we get new people, we have to teach them what we think is okay and normal and healthy, and what isn't. What, like, it especially is not cool. Things like verbal abuse from clients. And I know that's iffy because you can be like, what constitutes abuse? But I think that is something that you have to make clear and tell people this isn't okay, or that was pretty edgy. We're going to talk to them. Things like that. Just make it known, and don't start falling down this slippery slope, because I've seen. Okay, the other way I would say it too is, Jake mentioned the financial costs of bad clients. You also have the emotional toll of bad clients who are a weight on you, but later on, even worse, a weight on your employees who learn to not like their jobs, not like their lives, not want to keep working for you. And that sucks. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do it to yourself, and don't do it to them. You want to create these good environments. And if you want to go a little further, you can say, if your clients talk to people in these ways, there's a decent chance that nobody's ever told them. They've just had people allow them to be walked over, and never had anybody stood up and say, that's not cool the way that you're talking, or that's not appropriate, that's not okay what you're doing. So uh they might get mad. And again, but if those are the kind of people that they are, you really don't want to be working with them. They're not good people to work with.
Yeah, you told me on that one client that we had, you're like, I think this is a person who has never been punched in the face, and we just punched him in the face.
Yeah.
Because he did not take it well that he was being fired by someone he was giving money to, a lot of money to. And I remember, I can't remember if we talked about this, but I remember you or me telling you that, or you were asking me if we should get rid of them or keep them because they were attributing a lot to our bottom line. And I just at the time, and I was like, I don't want someone else to run my business, which means that like a really high paying client, because Cody and I have both worked at an agency where that was a huge thing. And that is not how I want to run. And I think if we lead by example and we say, no, we're not going to give you the opportunity to meet our employees because we value our employees and the work they put in and the loyalty they have. We want them to be happy. So we're just going to end the relationship now. And, it worked out a lot for us too, because what's also expensive from just labor hour standpoint is hiring and not being able to find the right people and training the wrong people. So if you get the right people in, you got to keep them there, and keeping them there isn't just like the benefits you give them. It's also the things you prevent them from having to deal with. And bad clients is one of them.
Yeah, it's big. That's so big.
Yeah.
I have so many flashbacks, stories. It's just,
yeah.
man.
I just think I know there's a lot. I mean, I do want to say though that not every difficult to deal with client is worth firing. There are clients that it is better to fix the situation, remedy it, maybe do a little bit more just to get them happy. But at some point, it's going to be too much, and it's just better to end the relationship. Cody's very proactive on wanting to get rid of clients. But that's also because like you're not a people person. And well, I'm not technically either. I can be that way if I have to, which I do have to. But I remember I was like, well, we shouldn't just, fire every client, because this client could be open up an opportunity to like, a lot more business or referral. They're a big person in the industry. We shouldn't just walk away from this. Let's see if we can salvage it. And in every single case, except for the one, we have been able to. And the relationship's been better. But there's a lot to consider before doing something like that. But you have to be objective, and you cannot look at the financial capability alone, or even the stress. I mean, some clients are just going to naturally be more stressful, and sometimes you just got to suck it up and deal with it for a little bit and pull through and make things better. But if that lasts for too long, or if, like Cody said, like there is some very manipulative stuff going on from your client's end, or they're swearing at you in emails or calls, or they're straight up lying, like we've had our previous client do, then yeah, terminate. There's definitely some red flags, and those are ones that you should terminate the relationship with. I think that's all I had. I think this was a relatively short one. Once we cut out all of the stuff that we want to cut out.
Yeah. I wish people could see Faye just rolling around in the background though. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, that was funny. I might cut it because I think it went on too long. That whole beginning is just going to be kind of, she's in heat. And so like, this is TMI, but her like vagina is super swollen. So like if she has her tail lifted up, it's like it looks like IR baboon's butt from Cow and Chicken.
Yeah.
But Jax is just constantly licking it.
Good.
Like and I'm just like, dude, and so I'm just like flicking or snapping at him. I'm like, stop.
I feel like that's another thing where if I had died, never heard that, that would have been okay.
All right. Well, everybody, I think that's it. Or actually, no, let's back up. Summarize. So, yeah. So just to summarize, I have 4 things that are indicators of a client or prospect who would not be a good fit for us. And that is clients that don't have the right expectations. Either they weren't set in their first place, or you tried to expand your services or your offerings to get a paycheck from this client. They're going to be too difficult to deal with. It's not going to be a good relationship. Don't do it. Clients that are too demanding. Again, this goes right in with expectations. They can't be too demanding if they know the right expectations. So set those. They won't be demanding. If they do become too demanding, go back to them and say, "Hey, you're being too demanding." I think in one of our more recent episodes, or like episode 4 or 5 or something like that, we talk about making sure your clients know that they're being too demanding and that you're not just ghosting them. So just let them know. Be open and honest about that. The third one is clients that don't have the right budget. Don't try to sell somebody or make them give you money if they just don't have the budget. Let them move on. Help them. Give them direction of where they should be before they reach back out to you. And that they will come back when they get to that point. We've had that happen to us. But it's going to be better for you than to have someone on for a month and have to chase after their invoices. And also potentially they could be too demanding and fall into the other two. The last one is be okay with firing clients. Don't fire every client that's difficult to deal with at a time, but pay attention to some of the red flags: swearing, lying, constant demand, things like that. So with that is episode 10. Everybody, thanks for listening. We'll catch you in the next episode.
See ya.
That's not how it ends, but that was Friends.